Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Sam Babiak, and I'm the program director for the Writers League of Texas. I am here with Alison Frenzel, the co-owner at Fabled Bookshop and Cafe in Waco, Texas. Thank you so much for joining us, Alison.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. And so we really just want to get to know more about you and your bookstores. So I guess we'll just start right at the beginning. How did you get into the bookstore business?
My background is in marketing. And so, but I love to read so much. And I've always wanted to kind of see how I could put two and two together.
Mhm.
Always had in my mind, like, oh, it'd be amazing to own a bookstore. But like, I would want to do coffee and I don't know coffee. And so I ended up meeting my business partner, Kimberly, who owns a couple of coffee shops here in Waco, Common Grounds, and an ice cream parlor too. And we had an acquaintance that connected us because we both had mentioned to him that we wanted to open a bookstore. And so we kind of sat down I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, probably, I think it was 4 years ago, and just had a very casual conversation and just realized we had the same shared vision for what we wanted. And, I think, as everybody knows, there's always different flavors of indie bookstores. And we kind of really were surprised that we kind of wanted the same flavor. One that celebrates nostalgia, makes it feel like you're somewhere in England, and somewhere that just feels very magical. And so that's how we started. I mean, it really felt like one little conversation, and then we just kept having conversations, and then until we're here. So in our shop, Fabled just turned 1 this past month, so we are 1 year old, and so nice not to be a baby anymore. Still, we have a lot to learn, but yeah, that's how. I mean, it really was just baby steps and tons of research, and just really kind of bringing both of our skill set together to create something. So yeah.
Oh, that's so inspiring. That's a beautiful story. Yeah, and so if you could describe your bookstore, its mission, the community in 3 words, what would they be?
Yes, it's a good question, and it is very hard, as you know, to just have 3 words.
Yeah.
So I would first say our first word would be champion, and we really want to champion the transformative impact that reading can have on a person, on a community. I mean, I feel like since you are also a reader, you would share this, but everybody has like that one book they read when they were young that just kind of changed them and where they fell in love with reading. And so we kind of wanted to capture that moment or magic and bring it to the store. And so it could affect all ages. So first definitely was, first word would be champion. And then the second one, I'm going to hyphenate it so it counts as one, would be literary linger. And that term we kind of made up because we really wanted to create a place where people could just kind of get lost in like finding books. And I think when I go to a bookstore, or especially independent bookstore, I'll like find one book that I want, and then I'm like, well, I like this one too, or I never even heard of this one. So kind of creating a place that didn't feel hurried, didn't feel like we were going to make you leave, and that you could really just, really get lost in the shelves. And so yeah, that's definitely my second hyphenated word. And then our third kind of, and this is really behind everything we create, is nostalgia. So just that calling back to falling in love with books, the magic that you feel when you fall in love with books. And so we have in the store itself, we have lots of little like surprises and like secret things that happen, and things that we're known for, things that kids love. And it's been so fun, like as we've opened, to see, like, so I'll just be in the shop, like doing regular everyday things, but to see someone like find something and they're like, oh my gosh, and just discover it has been so fun. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, your store sounds so beautiful and like reminiscent of that feeling you get when you're like reading that book that you love. Oh, that's so lovely. And so what is your favorite section of the store? And you've already mentioned these surprises, which I'm so curious about. So
I will reveal one of them. So my favorite section has to be the kids section. And really the main reason is because we have a secret entrance into it. We have a Narnia wardrobe, so you can go through the regular entrance or you can enter in the Narnia wardrobe. And so they're fur coats that you have to climb through. We even have like little birch trees on top of some of the bookshelves that are lit, so it really feels like you're going into Narnia. But it has been so fun to see kids in there discover books, or even like just grandmothers find books that they loved and that they want to buy their kids, and just kind of like the connection that people feel when they're in there. So it's so fun. We have, before COVID, we had lots of story times. We'd have kids activities and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably my favorite section to be in.
Sounds so cool. I've always wanted to go through a wardrobe like that, and that you put one in the bookstore. That's just like, if I was a kid, I would spend all day there.
But, you know, when I'm in the office, sometimes I will hear the wardrobe door like slam over and over, and so I'm like, I know there's some kids out there. It's so cute.
That's so cool. Awesome. And so you've already talked about, you know, creating this space, especially for children, you know, who really like books are just this gateway to so much more. And so I'm wondering what you think the responsibility is of a bookstore today, and if that's changed in the last year that you've been open, with everything that's going on, and also, just talk a little bit.
That's a great question. I think especially the past year, we feel just a deeper responsibility to the public, to our town. And since the beginning of our bookstore, we have kind of had this overarching mission statement to really choose books for our store that created empathy. So, I mean, there's so many books, especially now in this political climate, that could be more on the negative, either side, the negative kind of viewpoint that doesn't feel constructive or productive for just transforming someone. So we really tried to look and find books and stock our shelves with books that created empathy. And so people were, I always think about just a child that maybe never got to travel when they were young, when they grow up, and they really, the gateway to understanding people sometimes is a book, understanding different kinds of cultures in different kinds of circumstances. And so I think we take that responsibility very seriously. And sometimes there's books that, you know, it is very tempting to want to stock them in our store, and because they're really popular and we know they'll sell, but they don't have that empathetic goal. And so for us personally, that's something we've taken on, but I know that other bookstores would agree too, just because sometimes when you don't know what to do, reading a book is the most constructive thing that you can start with.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And so besides books, what is something that you love to see customers buy and walk out of the store with?
That's a good question. We have lots of fun gifts, and we try to really be a place that, like, when you don't know what to get someone, you can find something in our store. But I think personally, so I do a lot of the graphic design and photography for our shop. And so we design all of our shirts ourselves. And so I think it's really fun to see people excited about it, because I really, even before we opened a bookstore, there was really a gap in my mind with like shirts or like other clothing items that celebrate reading that were cool to wear, in my opinion, that just looked more like fashion forward, or, you know, a little more trendy. So we have shirts we have a shirt that says "Reading is my favorite." We have a shirt that we carried last year that we'll probably carry this fall and winter now. It's a reversible sweatshirt. So if one side says "Book Lover" and the other, you can reverse it and it'll have our logo on it, which is very helpful when you're not on top of laundry. You could just reverse the sweatshirt. So it's been fun to, and that section is kind of right near the shop counter. And so it's been fun to see people come in and kind of delight in those things, because I think that when you're a reader, you really celebrate that identity, and wearing a shirt is kind of representative of that. Like, if we're not going to have our sports teams, we're going to have like why we love books that we'll wear. So that has been just kind of fun to observe, because, you know, they may not know that I designed them, but it's fun to see them get excited about them.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm going to have to go buy that reversible sweatshirt. That is like,
yes, it is. I mean, we even in the summer, people are like, "Do you have this in stock?" And I'm like, "Well, it's Texas, so no, we don't." but yes, we're going to roll it out because it's just a beloved thing for sure.
That's awesome. And so this is our last question for the day. Is there anything else that you'd like folks to know about your bookstore?
Well, I think just, 2020 has just been a roller coaster for everybody. I would say I would want people to know that our store is kind of a soft place to land in all of this. So even if you want to escape, all the stress and realities of the regular world, I mean, we will ask you to wear your mask, but that's something you can't escape. But just a place where you can kind of forget about things and find something to read and escape into, or, the alternative, you really feel like you need to learn more or explore more about topics that we as humanity need to be better at. I would hope that we're more of a shop that is offers that kind of explorability factor where you just want to, we always say, of course, the Narnia quote of further up and further in, where you just keep wanting to look for more things, finding the perfect book and finding something that is special for you and for whatever you're going through. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
We're all going to have to visit your bookstore very soon.
I'm hoping you'll come for sure.
Thank you.